G'day, it's Clive Rocksinger here. Now, look, I'm a great one for carrying on like a two-bob, but you get very excited when you work for years and years on things. You think, I've solved it, and then you wake up the next day and you work it out and it's wrong. God, it happens a lot, and it's so frustrating. Now, the interesting thing about being an engineer and an artist, I'm now able to do designs I designed this 2 days ago. And you think, oh, it's a silly looking thing. That double one is supposed to be a rubber band. And I haven't got one here. Oh yes I have, hang on, they're in the drawer here. I'll put that down there. And this one here. What this is it's a tension tester so that you can get a length and you can get a poundage. And this is the scale I'm using. And that's the rubber band, and this is actually the unit almost being completed here. I've got it working. And what you do is when you wind the bolt, that's actually a bolt. That long one, this one here, is actually a bolt. And when you tighten that, it moves that assembly here. That one there, it moves that backwards and forwards. And that pulls on that thing, and that stretches that. And I get a measurement with a ruler which will be attached to it, and I get a poundage which is a reading on the gauge. I've also got a digital one which is going to be another adapter. But what's occurred to me now, look, I'll tell you what, I do this all the time, but this one, man, oh, this has just floored me. Calculus is a dinosaur. You don't need calculus anymore. And you want to know something? I don't think they use calculus. I don't think they use it. I reckon they use something that's similar to TSA, and I'll show you why. See, with when they created calculus, they had no way to describe a curve in math. Now, what that is your mapping object. This one here, VC trim map. The reason that vertical thing there is TSA is two-dimensional. You can multiply and you can do mathematical functions in two directions, both vertical and horizontal. That's your vertical component. And that one there, actually, all it is your mapping object, and there's your map there. Oops. C20, that's your range. It's an XLSM, which is an XLSM, which means it's a Microsoft spreadsheet, which means on a Mac it can be different. It can be a different spreadsheet. This works with different spreadsheets. Your trim map is the map of the column that you're describing. And if we go to the map, there's your map there. Now, I go A, B, B, C, C, D because when I started doing this, I got into almost, I got into the second range where you go A, when you go A, B, C, and then you go A, B, C, and then A, B, B, C, I got up to like D. And so I started using these generic codes where you go A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, and you get a lot longer string without having to double up. And that mapping object, so like in BC, you take your left-hand side value here, which is, I don't know if you can see the cursor there, the left-hand side of the spreadsheet, and it actually tells you the length of that column. And then you use a column algebra, which is your range object, which is that there, that's your range object. And what you're doing is you're using manual algebra to multiply the columns, which are actually calculus, and the answer is a curve, but it's not calculus. So you get your answer in a curve, and all you do is you do a mathematics with the column objects. And so you don't need calculus because they created calculus where they didn't have spreadsheets. Now that they have spreadsheets, you don't need calculus. Because all you're really doing is that you're creating a mathematical function based on the ranges, fucking around with it in mathematics and then trying to turn it back into the spreadsheet data. You don't need to do that. You don't need calculus. All you need is TSA, and it gives you the curve, and you can do algebra with TSA in the columns, and it gives you your answer. You don't need to do calculus at all. Calculus is a dinosaur. You don't need it anymore. TSA will now replace calculus. This is insane. This is done by computer program. This is all done manually, but your computer program does all this. And see this, HI range equals FG times GH. So it's what I'll do, HI equals FG. So HI is that one. P. HI equals FG. Where are we? FG. That's V. That's the one there. Times GH times that one there. See how you do the algebra with it? And there it is there. See, BC range times CD, that's a constant. So BC is your BC is your counter. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And CD trim constant is a value that's common all the way down the column. So if you've got 23 and it's a constant, you write 23 and then you hit Control D and it puts it all the way down the column, and then you call that a constant. And that way you can actually use the constant as a single value and not as a range object. See, the constant's written as constant and not as a range object. Trim range just means it's a range. It's a trimmed down expression of the map. And the range object is actually that starting point and that point. And you can actually do algebra, and here you've got your two-dimensional, where you can actually multiply P by PCST. There is a business thing for that. So TSA means that you no longer have to use calculus, and this is to test the tension in rubber bands. And also I've got a thing I'm setting up too, which I'm working out at the moment for testing rolling friction. And the funny thing is, I had a machine for it already. I already had something that did the job, and there it is there. This is for testing rolling resistance, and it's got a mechanism. All I do is I put a weight onto this, right, and I've got to figure out how much pressure it takes to pull that down. And here's your mechanism here, which I'm drawing up. Get my dirty shoes out of the way. And there's my mechanism there, and that actually is your gravel surface. So what I do is I make 3D printed surfaces to represent gravel on that, and I can calculate rolling resistance. Anyway, yeah, calculus is a dinosaur. You don't need to use it anymore. TSA is going to replace it entirely. You don't even need to use calculus. They created it when they didn't have an Excel spreadsheet. Well, you got Excel now. You don't need calculus. Live Rock Singer, over and out.